Welcoming you to a life of awareness, the Presence Project is excited for you to join us for today's podcast with your host, Paul Kersner.
Hello and welcome to episode 89 of Are You Being Present? My name is Paul. I want to welcome you to the present moment. I want to welcome you to the here and now. And I want to thank you wholeheartedly, sincerely, and deeply for joining me in this wonderful present moment. The title and topic of today's podcast is A Clean Conscience is a Gift Earned with Presence. And I wanted to talk about what a clean conscience is, how you can earn a clean conscience, the value of having a clean conscience, because it's a gift that I have personally worked toward and believe that I do have. And I'm going to explain why that is so. And I'm going to explain the steps that you could take to get to a place where you can have a clean conscience. Because it is a wonderful thing to have. And not in regards to being some kind of psychopath where you just don't care about any of the things that you've done. But in regard to living presently, living with honor, virtue, gratitude every day, doing the best you can in every moment, making the best decisions possible, living your life with good intention and not ill will, cumulatively, every day leads to a place where you can clean and clear your conscience. If you're a good person, and I believe most of the people on earth are, having a clean conscience is a gift that's invaluable. It cannot be purchased. No one can give it to you. It is earned through behavior and time. Having a clean conscience means that if you wake up in the middle of the night, you don't sit there and ruminate, thinking about all the things that you could have done and having anxiety about all the things that might come up, all the things that you might have to do. You know who you are, you know where you are, you know what you are, you know what you've done. And you understand that there are some things that are outside of your control. It does not mean you don't contend with your ego. You do have an ego. But your ego isn't able to draw from the well of all of the behaviors and decisions that you've made which have gone against your best interests or the best interests of others for whatever reasons. Maybe you allowed your ego to lead you in that moment and you made a decision that had unintended consequences. Maybe you allowed someone else's ego to trigger you and you reacted in kind. You're going to get literally unlimited opportunities every single day, every single moment presented to you to get things right. And if you're doing the best you can in the present moment over and over again, you're working towards a place of having a clean and clear conscience. And this is truly one of the best gifts that I can ever have and that I could ever speak on. The reason why I believe that I do have a clean conscience is because every day of my life, every moment, I strive to do the very best that I can. Yes, sometimes I perceive that I fall short, but I am not judgmental. I am objective when I'm looking at the decisions that I've made so that I can learn from them and grow from them. That allows me to shift and pivot in the present moment. I refuse to be hard on myself. I refuse to use negative motivators to lead me or to lead the way, because I understand that negative motivators like shame, guilt, and any of those will never lead me to a positive place where I feel good about myself. I love myself truly and wholeheartedly. I accept myself. This has been a path. I can speak on it now because I've walked the path and because I've lived in a state where I felt the opposite. And one of the reasons why I feel like I felt the opposite was because I wasn't present and I was in a state of reactivity and I didn't have a clean and clear conscience. If you're not a narcissist and you're not a sociopath, you understand and take responsibility for the things that you've done and the things that happen for you, then you're able to see yourself, you're able to watch yourself, and you're able to watch your ego from moment to moment and second to second, and do the very best you can with no ill will or ill intent to anyone else or anything else. Then you can work your way to having a clean conscience. And just because I feel like I have a clean conscience doesn't mean I sit on my laurels and just rest on that. No, I am constantly in a state of observation, watching the things that are happening for me, watching the things that I'm thinking about, looking at the things that I'm doing, the decisions that I'm making, and always being observant in the fact that there are moments where I'll be triggered. There'll be moments where I'll be feeling emotion, and I have to make sure that I'm not allowing my ego to lead me and to make decisions that have unintended consequences. But no matter what the decisions are that I make, I believe in my heart that I'm making them with a perspective and perception where I am honorable, where I've done the very best I can, where I did not mean to cause harm to anyone or anything. And that, for me, is of extreme importance when I peer back to all the things that have happened objectively. I know in my heart that I never meant to hurt or harm anyone. And I believe that 100%. And because of that, I have a clean and clear conscience. And as I move forward, I'm observing the way that I'm interacting with others and also interacting with myself, to make sure that I'm not in a state of judgment. And if I enter into a state of judgment for myself or others, I'm trying to understand and looking at where that's coming from. And I'm also making sure that I'm not making decisions based on that. But I, again, refuse to be hard on myself. I refuse to judge myself, because it becomes very difficult to stay in a state of neutrality and at times being positive about the things that I'm doing if I'm hard on myself. That's not the way for me. And we've talked about negative motivators over and over again, and I'll continue to talk about them so we can identify them and find the roots of them. See what's using it, and it's your ego using it against you and others. And if you're allowing your ego to rule you, to speak through you, and to make you reactive, then you're going to do and say things that you're going to regret. And that is going to affect your ability to clean and clear your conscience. That takes presence and understanding and a watchful eye without a lens of judgment. And to get there, of course, we have to use our presence tools. We have to value presence. We have to see things, including ourselves, for who we are, how we are, and where we are at any given moment. And it really takes effort and focus. And it's an accumulation of all of the decisions and behaviors that you've made up until this point that will deem that if you have a clear and clean conscience, you'll know this because of the thoughts and feelings that arise about yourself and others. You might get a glimpse at times of what it's like to have a clear and clean conscience. But I hope this podcast and this discussion raises your awareness of what it is and the importance of striving for it and then maintaining it. Because again, it's not just a place you get and then you just have it and then you could just stop paying attention. No. Our decisions that we make for ourselves and for others must be of honor and virtue, not to cause harm and not to have ill will, not to seek revenge or justice. Now, I'm not saying that there are times where we don't feel these things because we experience injustices and others cause harm to us. But what I'm saying is that seeking revenge will only lead to more suffering. You can do as you see fit. You have that right. But because we live in the third dimension with cause and effect, there are consequences for our decisions. And when you act out through revenge and ill will and ill intent, the consequences affect your conscience and actually enable your ego to use these things against you, to remind you of the things that you've done that have had negative impacts for others, including yourself. Because no one gets away with anything. I know it might seem like that at times, but it's not true. Because when a person causes a harm to another person with ill intent, even if it seems like they get away with it, it affects their conscious. It lodges into their subconscious mind. Their ego takes note of it. And we don't know what it's like in another person's head. We have no idea what happens when their head hits the pillow at night, what thoughts, feelings, emotions, regrets stir within them. And we need to set that aside because we need to stay focused on ourselves and what's going on in our own internal state of being so that we can work towards a place of having a clean conscience, so we can understand the gift of what a clean conscience is. And it is a gift beyond words, beyond measure. I'm trying to explain it to you, but really the feeling space that I have is very hard to describe because I know full well what it was like to live without one. I know what it was like to wake up at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., lost in thought, full of regret and worry and fear. Now if I wake up at 1 or 2 a.m., I'm just bored. But what a gift that is. I would much rather be bored and then finally fall back to sleep than to be stuck there thinking, lost in thought, trapped with my ego. And allowing that ego to run amok. Oh, the pain and the suffering, the self-inflicted suffering that takes place anywhere between 1 and 3 a.m. for so many people. The regret, the resentment, the frustration and anger that causes that restlessness, that triggers you, that causes your body to release cortisol, a stress hormone that stays in your bloodstream 1 to 3 weeks and causes inflammation. But let's set aside the physiological effects of cortisol and let's just stay focused on what's going on with you in this present moment, in this present second, and asking yourself, do I have a clean conscience? I mean, until you actually do the work, the answer is going to be no. Don't allow your ego to trick you. But the beauty is that you can start now working your way toward having a clean conscience. And I'm here to tell you that there's a path, and it could be lengthy at times, but it is worth the effort. It is a gift beyond, well beyond any words that I could ever use to describe it. It leads me to a state of being content with who I am and what I've done. And with all those things, I could tell you that it was worth every single second of any suffering or adversity that I had to endure and not react and not allow my ego to lead the way. And that's really challenging at times because you feel entitled. You've been wronged. But it's up to you to drop the cord, to stay focused on who you are, not to seek revenge, to go within, to do your ego work, to use your presence tools, and to really seek peace and to want peace. And I understand that some of you are going through great adversity right now and have been harmed. And for that, you have my empathy. But I also understand that the suffering that many people are enduring right now is purposeful, and it's giving you an opportunity to do the right thing, to live with honor and virtue, so that you can work your way towards having a clean conscience. I hope you found this podcast helpful. It is always an honor, truly an honor, to share my present seconds with you. And as always, I wish you nothing but peace.
Thank you for listening to the Are You Being Present podcast, brought to you by the Presence Projects. Remember, you have a choice. Choose to be present.